They're finally done. This is a huge project. This is a huge project because I wanted to make this a huge video. Yes, Settlers of Catan, your own homemade version. If you know nothing about Catan, don't click away. This video is packed with basically every tip that I've learned from lasers, also a ton of woodworking tips, all kinds of tips galore, and how to make all these custom game sets. It would obviously work for other games as well, not just the Settlers of Catan. And don't be daunted by the fact that we're in a wood shop. All of this could be run on a laser you can run inside your home. There's a lot here, a lot of information. Like all my videos, I try to do lots of variations. So we have 14 different sets with lots of different material types, software tips, sanding tips, materials, all kinds of things. So use the timestamps if you're looking for something in particular, but there it is. It's packed with all kinds of tips and tricks. So here you have it, Catan Hex Game, laser work. Here we go. And right from the start, we'll just go ahead and give you a closer look at all the components, get a better idea of what is coming. I will have a much closer look at all the different sets and the variations later, but we are going to obviously cover the hex tiles and all the variations, pieces, tokens, using acrylic, using wood, hardwood pieces, how you cut all of this on a laser, cards, boxes, lids, dividers, all that and much, much more. But here we go. Let's start off talking about material types for the pieces. So materials. Specifically, I want to talk about the main point of this game are these hexes, right? The hexagons, hexagonal pieces, they interlock. I'll talk about the files and the settings later in the video, but I want to explore some of the options. Now, the obvious one is just basswood, just some plain old basswood. Any laser you have is going to work. So even a really underpowered diode machine, basswood is going to work for you. Any machine can really cut it. Then you can paint it, you can stain it, lots of options with basswood. And so later in the video, I will show these sets kind of interlocking. You can really get an idea for, ooh, I like that pattern, I like that combination. So we'll get into that. But basswood is a great option. Staining, right? We'll get into that. My new favorite, while painting is awesome, you get some really cool effects, and staining is really cool, it can be time consuming, and depending on the elements and your space, that might be harder. My favorite thing are pre-made MDF. MDF, this is weird. I'm a woodworker, I love the natural hardwoods, they're beautiful. Easiest is pre-painted MDF, or faux wood. Yes, I just said fake wood in a wood shop. But it's really nice and you get the same effect. And so if you're not super, snobby and snooty like I am, and I like that, that is a more affordable option. This particular one, like this is a rosewood and there's a maple, a walnut, and an ebony that I used a lot on the pieces. This actually comes in a really good value pack. I will link all the stuff down below, but xtool sells that. Some pre-painted, smaller ones like this that will fit any machine. You can also, other sources for some larger pieces, some bigger ones. You can get a bigger faux wood like this. That's kind of helpful on those bigger ones for doing the boxes, a little bit more options. This is some pre-finished legit hardwood. So this is real walnut, this is real sapele mahogany. This is beautiful stuff. You can see this box right here is that sapele mahogany. This stuff is spendy at like $10 to $12 a sheet. So if you want that look, you can get it. However, my recommendation, if you really want the wood look, which obviously woodworker loves, this is real wood veneer, right? Obviously it's plywood and some of them have an MDF core just to make it easier. It's not solid wood, but you can cut these on your laser. Most of these I actually cut on a 20-watt S1, the xtool S1, and a lot also on CO2 laser, the xtool P2 and P2S, 55-watt. But this type of stuff, you could even cut on a 10-watt or a 20-watt laser. If you don't know anything about lasers, stick around later in the video. I'll talk about it. It's not daunting, it's really easy. The software is super intuitive. It's fun, possibilities. But this stuff is really cool. Later I'll show this and like how to finish it, some woodworking finish options, great results. This is babinga. This stuff is gorgeous. It's real, it's not fake, and I just think it has a great look. Obviously, you could also do acrylic. Acrylic is plastic, and there are certain colors with acrylic that you can't cut on diode machines. So like clear, transparent, sometimes white, sometimes blue, orange. So definitely look into your supplier or your laser, you know, where it came from, on what colors it can do. A lot of times, like xtool, for instance, they have like a diode acrylic pack that has the colors you could cut on a diode laser. But this one right here, it's black. This is actually 1/25 of an inch. Yes, it is that thin. It is actually that thin. It's super thin, so this can be cut on most machines, and it's just like a kind of a thin layer, and I kind of think the black is a nice little classy look. They also have that in white, where you could do it on like a hardwood. And so the different color for the resources for the game is the different species of woods, or you could paint or use MDF for the different colors on the bottom and then have kind of a black or a white layer, which we'll get into that option later. And of course, you can also do all the colors. So don't mind that. It's a well-oiled machine here. All the pieces, right? So I cut a ton of different pieces. This is some really nice metallic-y, doesn't have as much fingerprints for some acrylic game pieces, but also you can see here, I use the 12 by 12 sheets a ton for tops. Could also do these for bottoms. So much. All right, so that's just a quick overview of some of the options for materials. Links down below. Now, I want to talk about what you want to do before cutting them. It's going to save you so much time. All right, I share this tip in most of my videos, but this is a huge one if you don't already know. Before you even cut it, you want to put on a double stick adhesive. Now, this is spendy, this is expensive, but like look at this little topper right here, this brick pattern, and there are some more intricate. You can do different ones. That is so much. If I wanted to, while I love it, while I love using CA glue, just put it on the back. That's just a lot of time. Got to make sure it doesn't smear and run. And then I got to use activator and put it down. That's going to take you forever if you're doing an intricate file. If you're not using a super intricate file, like maybe you just want to do, I got to color different colors and then I just engrave and I don't do the layered stacking. Well, this isn't as big of an issue, but almost, no, that's not true. 100% of these sets have 2 layers. There are options out there if you want to do engraving, and there's some cool files. I just really love the look of the 2 layers, and also for gameplay, the pieces don't move around. I just think it's a better look. So what you do, ahead of time, you take your piece. So this is some walnut faux MDF, and I just roll this out, measure about how much, and then I cut it, and then I lay it down, and then it's on my back. Right, so I have the adhesive already there, and then I do add, I do like to add masking. So this is just really simple. If you don't know about it, right? It's kind of like a high tacky, medium tacky, and then you put it on, and then you put it in your machine, and then you run it. One thing to consider if you have the masking on the top or the double-sided adhesive, you might have to adjust your settings. So definitely do a test run. You know, this material without the stuff, you know, is, you know, 90 power, 8 speed. But with this stuff, I have to drop it down to 5 speed. So make sure you do that because nothing is worse than, oh, I ran my project and then I pull it up and then the bottom, it didn't cut all the way through. So definitely test that out. Great option. Otherwise, if you don't mask, you are going to do so much cleaning, especially on this MDF. You're going to get flare-ups, flashback. This saves so much time. It's kind of a pain to apply, and you got to, you know, squeegee it down, do all that. You'll see that in a bit, but it's worth it. It's so worth it. It saves you so much time from having to clean everything up after the fact. Other option is you could just cut everything out of basswood first, cut it, and then paint it. So it's like, oh, I painted it. And then so with painting, if you're gonna paint it, I actually would recommend just do the double stick tape if it's a top layer. If it's a top layer, put that on, but you don't need to mask that because then after the fact, you're just gonna add paint on the top. But if it's a pre-painted or anything else, otherwise, but if it's stained or painted, just obviously that's basswood, just run it and then do it after the fact, gonna save you time. All right, let's jump into actually doing this and you see us apply it and just what it looks like. Not real time, sped up. But here we go, let's check it out. So applying these sheets is really easy. I do find it easier to get the big roll and then just make a DIY, you know, something like this. I talk about this in other videos, how to make it. It's just really simple. There's probably other ways to do it as well, but you just pull it and then you lay it down, use a squeegee, a rubber scraper, get everything to adhere so there's no bubbles, really important. And now some cutting. So here you can see where I'm cutting it without the masking. I found out I had to do so much cleaning after the fact, so I definitely recommend masking. Or like basswood here, you don't have to mask that because you're gonna either sand it later or paint on top of it. Actually, the basswood came out really clean using the 20 watt. I'll talk more about the lasers I use later in the video, but lots of options, lots of options. Acrylic, you definitely do want to use. Well, okay, you don't have to use a CO2 laser. Here, I did not have any masking on it. You can actually leave the paper on the top. Might work a little bit better for you. Here's a 20 watt diode doing that really thin, stuff that worked well. But I did use the CO2 for most of my acrylic. The MDF, I definitely, if it's pre-painted, I definitely recommend using some masking. And here's my helper helping out. So you definitely want to, get some help from the family. Family can do it, pulling off all that paper if you do the pre-painted stuff. If you're going to paint your own, prime it, use the different colors. Rattle cans are great. They're fast. Use those old Amazon cardboard packages and boxes, and then you can just go to town with all the colors. Really fun to mess around with the colors. It's just time consuming for the reasons we talked about earlier. You are going to want to add a clear coat if you end up doing paint. That way for gameplay it doesn't smudge over time and it holds up. If you do the basswood, I do recommend sanding it just a light, there's going to be some char, but sanding it before you stain it, and then you can stain it after the fact. You can stain the wood before cutting it on the laser. I just like to do it this way for this application, but stain is a cool look, right? So that's another option. Right now I'm prepping all of these materials. They're going to get a clear coat. And so these are just going to be clear. There's some of those natural hardwoods, the hardwood veneer, but I'm just, any kind of like singe, flare-ups, just cleaning that up with a sander, just a higher sanding grit. Now we're just removing the dust with an air compressor. Not necessary, but you could do it. I wanted to mess around. This is a new tool to me. I know I said you don't need all the fancy tools, but I wanted to try a new one for this project. So lacquer thinner and lacquer 1-to-1 parts, and using an HVLP system. Because I was going to be spraying so much stuff, I figured this would be easier than doing my normal spray lacquer. I've linked down below the normal rattle cans I use. It's my favorite finish. It's incredible. There's nothing like spray lacquer. You just build up the coats, no sanding in between, and then at the very end you can scuff it up with a brown paper bag. But this HVLP system worked so well. It's an investment, but you could use this for paint or other things. But I thought it was time for me to finally get one. Lots of applications, and saved from all those rattle cans that I would normally do. But here you can see some of the building costs. I also have, victory points and other little markers for largest army. Those are some other little things that you engrave and cut out with the file. But here, after the fact, you can see those beautiful natural colors. Got a great finish. It's going to last. And here we're using just brown paper bags, right? Grocery bags. And you just rub it, and it lightly scuffs it so they're silky smooth. So any of those dust nibs that got caught in the finish, now it's all super smooth. So once all your pieces are painted, primed, peeled, you're ready to go. You have that double stick on the back. We're good. You want to make yourself a little jig. Now the files do have these, but if you have a different file, make something like this where here's what the top kind of rests into and here's the bottom. And then CA glue is going to be your friend later for boxes. Just kind of basic, right? A little bit. And then you can use an activator. This instantly glues. It's like super glue. And you just kind of line it up, make sure it's lined up perfectly. Pinch it, real time. And we're good. All right, and there you have it. And so now I take my bottom piece and I stick it in. It fits. If it doesn't fit, this is the time to check it. This is also a good just double check, just in case something wonky went on. You need this to actually interlock and work. And then slide it over, and then the back side, you just peel off that backer and then just slide it in, pop it off, and it's right where you want it to be. Everything's lined up perfectly, and then you can just then interlock like so. Okay, so a little bit more on that process. So this is the fun part. All of your hard work, all the colors, all the combinations are all laid out. So I kind of went through what combos I wanted, laid everything out, and then I had that jig and I just started assembling. So I really recommend taking your time to assemble each piece and then putting it together like you're playing the game. So here I'm doing it the full 5 to 6 expansion, the full size, just to make sure everything interlocks properly. I didn't have any issues. You do want to make sure that everything was cut correctly and interlocks. And so here, just quickly am able to adhere the top layer using that double stick. You can see that pile on the side works so much faster. And then you get great results, and it holds, and you can kind of see it. So some different possibilities. Here you can pause the screen if you want to look at some of the different styles I used, some of them. And don't worry, I will have a longer shot video of all the possibilities at the end of the video as well. All right, so tokens. In the game, you absolutely have to have tokens. You need to have them sit in here. That's a must. And so this one you can see is 2 pieces of 3mm or 1/8 inch. So it's a little bit higher. You might not have a machine that can cut 1/4 inch material easily without having lots of char on the side. So that's one option of just doing it that way. Or this acrylic, I think it's like 1/5 of an inch, not quite a quarter. A little bit, and with acrylic, you can just cut it, but then you can engrave it. So it's all in one. One thing, I mean, if you're really, snooty about it, is there might be thumbprints, for gameplay, but some considerations for the tokens. That would be here, and then also the same thing for the ports. The ports are necessary as well, that you would do the same thing. And then once you have all the pieces, cut like this, you do want to have these little tokens. These storage trays. We'll talk about the storage trays in a bit. But first, just the cutting and engraving of the tokens. So the acrylic is a great option, whether you're using 1/4 inch, or I'll link this one. This is like 1/5 inch. So a little bit more doable on most machines. I really love the results, how this one turned out. This thicker stuff was pretty cool. I also used this for the robber piece on a couple different styles, but engraved it and then cut it all out, and then they just pop right out, so satisfying. But here's that acrylic option, another closer look at that. You do see the brown paper on the back. That's because I left that masking on just so there wasn't as much flashback or flare up on the back, less cleaning. Otherwise, use isopropyl alcohol to clean them up. These wood ones was a pre-finished wood, and great results. I really love how these turned out. So this would work great. A lot of different woods you can do with that, but a pre-finished wood I think worked really well for the wood option. These were that thinner, so I had to do 2 layers of them and then just attach them with that double stick adhesive. And let's talk about the pieces. This definitely is not a must-do. Most of the sets that I've seen for folks who are selling these online, they don't include the pieces because you got to make your own. This particular file has a really cool option where everything fits just, okay, I can't help this up. I know the pieces fit. Every time I can't help myself, I have to sing that little Tool song. They fit so nicely. Was that awkward? So that's okay. Anyway, this design, because we have the 2 layers, everything fits just there. And so the files, they're great, right? They happen. So pieces, we can make them out of acrylic, can make them out of wood, can make them out of plywood, lots of options. But really, for someone who's played a lot of Settlers of Catan and board games, the pieces actually make a big difference. And so you do want to consider what pieces work. Now the stock pieces for the game, they actually will fit in this particular file. But making your own is kind of cool. So have a whole video on this, on using real hardwood on the laser. My gosh, these are incredible. I cannot articulate how much. I'm gonna end up having a whole separate video talking even more about these and design that would scale for chess pieces and other. But hardwood, really cool. They feel amazing. Acrylic, some really cool options for acrylic as well. But pieces, options, check them out. And the pieces, obviously, yes, we could use the stock pieces that come with the game. But this file, look, they fit so nicely. Got the wooden ones, kind of centers in right there. The wood is great. This is 1/4 inch or 3/16 inch, so it's a little bit above. I went with 1/8 inch acrylic. So that is a little bit like, okay, it's a little bit harder to get out, but even the file, like they're kind of rounded on the sides. They stick in just like so. I mean, you would never have a piece next to a piece. There'd be a road to a road. But anyway, options of the pieces, the hardwood ones are my fan. I'm a huge fan, but like I mentioned, I will have a whole separate video talking about the software for designing some of these and some other considerations with pieces. So first up, the wood. This is some pre-milled stuff. It's about 1/4 inch. It cut really well on the P2S, the CO2 laser. Probably would work fine on the S1 40 watt. Other options. I am gluing it together, just some CA glue, activator, just kind of little system. And then once they're glued together, I'm using a vibratory tumbler. So here, this is used for like brass shell casings or small metal parts. I'm using some walnut shell media, and it's cleaning up really nice. It's really more polishing at this point, not sanding. So I did a batch in this big rock tumbler using this aluminum oxide 120 grit, and ran this for a couple days and really liked the results. This is great if you had some like glue squeeze out. But after that, I did also put it back in the walnut. So after it went through the rock tumbler with the aluminum oxide, I also used the walnut shells. Now I'm doing another step using this furniture butter, just kind of mixing it in. I did this a couple different ways. I am going to have a longer video just on these pieces, so if you want more on this, stay tuned for that. But then I'm adding this corn husk media. It came with this particular vibratory tumbler, links down below if curious. And this just is polishing, and this gave it an amazing polish. Really, really fine particles, and so it helped, but those particles did get stuck everywhere. And yes, you do put the lid on when you're actually using it. This is a video I've already posted. It kind of talks about these different tumblers and the abrasives. If you want to learn a little bit more about that, colander is a must. And then you're getting rid of all that corn cob media, but there's still some that's stuck on, but they're so polished. You don't have to polish by hand. You don't have to sand by hand. There's no more char. Oh my gosh, so great. So here we're trying to clean out all those little corn husk parts. So we used the air compressor. I did have to use an X-Acto knife to get out all that. So if you have a different media you'd recommend, go ahead and leave a comment down below, recommendation. I know there's some other types, but I loved the results. These pieces are incredible. It's hardwood, it's real wood, natural finish, really good oil and wax finish. I love it. Acrylic pieces, right, it's pretty straightforward how you cut them out. This is a friction fit, 2 different pieces that we're attaching together. I will have a video coming out soon on the software of how to do these, how to create your own. A lot more on the software, a little bit slower, just dedicated to making custom pieces. And then you can have a family work party and putting them together in little bags, package it up, fun stuff. So we will talk about the files that I used a little bit later, that is coming, but I do want to talk about the boxes and inserts. Now I use 2 primary files. There's a lot of different ones to look for, pre-made ones. I mean, you can design your own, go for it, but there is a pre-made design, and I actually used one for most everything. However, their box design had a separate 4-player set and a separate expansion set, and I just wanted it all in one. Another file that I ended up not going with for the other components, it's still really cool, I just stuck with one just for simplicity's sake, was this one, and this one actually came with the set. And so the pieces, right, we're in a 6-player game, these just nest right here, and then I can take the components, I can put them all in here, and everything fits nicely. And so it's already scaled, it's already done for you, scale-wise for your pieces, for everything. You can make more. That's the cool thing about lasers, is you can make all kinds of different storage attachments. I actually made a custom wood one out of hardwood, bigger one, and made some custom inserts for that as well. Other options, other considerations. One thing to note, if you end up using this file I share later, it is scaled for like 3mm 1/8 inch, and so some of the other things might not work as well. So like the box, the lid design like this, it might not fit if you use wider materials, so you're gonna have to adjust that a little bit if you end up using different types of materials. The main set that I used, the main file for all of these toppers, actually had a design I liked where the lid kind of slid up and out. It worked well. I just didn't want to take the time, which I should have in hindsight, and design one just for overall. You want a lid that works. So other options, I will talk again about some other options for boxes, some free files. You can stay tuned for that. So for cutting the dividers, I mostly went with that pre-finished. It's that MDF. It was that faux wood MDF. So you can see here, it's got the masking on it. Then I cut them all out, and then I removed the masking and sorted them out. So look at all those colors. This is, I really recommend checking this out as a laser supply. So we have the ebony dark, we have rosewood, walnut, maple. I'm using this in so many projects. So separated them out and then gluing them together. I did end up making the boxes for the pieces. I did tweak the file a bit to make them a little bit larger to accommodate my bigger pieces that I made. That is something that you might do. And again, you might have to adjust the lid size on these boxes. But just using CA glue again, I love CA glue. It's so helpful for where you use it. And then the activator. And then I did do an engraving on the top of the box. You could customize that out to all kinds of things like a wedding gift, right? Or a personal project like here, the Matsons of Catan settled on the wedding date, right? This is a custom box, hardwood box. I'm gonna have a whole video on how I made this box and some other personalizations. That's coming up soon, but that's another option. All right, really quick, want to talk about the files. So these are, let's actually jump to the actual files. I purchased these on Etsy. This is one of the files I purchased initially. I did end up using all of the boxes, the box itself, but the little trays. It's a great file. Lots of other possibilities with this. However, I ended up going with this as my main file. I like the fact that the settlements and the cities had these little notches kind of portioned out. This particular file, it actually came with files for making these little round discs where you could engrave them on that. I went with a different option. You can see the engraving. So there's some other things that I didn't use here, but this is that main one I used. So if you want to find the same design, I got the 5:6 expansion. But actually, let's jump over here. So this, the main one I did, it was right here. Sorry, computer's lagging because of course I'm screen recording. So here's that main file I used, and both of them come with lots of directions. If you zoom in, these are the boxes for this one. I ended up not using these boxes, but all of the tokens, all of the pieces. It's a really great file. Obviously, you're going to do some tweaking depending on your machine, on different things, fitting everything, you know, kind of moving things around to maximize your material. I did tweak, you know, the building cost to make that a little bit different, but there's that kind of jig that we mentioned earlier in the video. But anyway, it's really easy to use the software. Look for upcoming videos, some more videos on XCS if you're on XCS. But I do want to talk more about files because there is an awesome resource that I've been sharing a lot lately. This is Free Files. It starts with Free Files. So the cost of, you know, a box file on Etsy is like $3 to $4, right? The cost of, you know, normal SVGs is, you know, a couple bucks. Here on Creative Fabrica, it's a subscription. And so if you use my link down below, you get 10 free downloads. But if you sign up, you have unlimited downloads, right? And so for the cost of 1 to 2 files you would normally purchase, you have a whole month. Every file you use has a commercial license. You can sell things. If you've seen my other videos, you know a lot of what I make comes from here. And so you'll recognize a lot of the files or see some future projects. But so many files. I mean, check out all of these different files. Unlimited downloads. And so obviously lots of great laser stuff, SVGs, but also a lot of great PNGs as well. So I definitely recommend checking this out. It's Creative Fabrica. Look at my link down below. Free trial, 10 free downloads at least, but definitely check that out. There you go. Little file action, little software. All right, I want to talk a little bit about cards and pieces, but cards specifically. Obviously, best bet is just have your original sets and just use the cards from the sets. 100% of all of the box sets that I've seen online listed on Etsy, no one sells it with the cards. Now probably a lot of that is the copyright issue. You're not going to sell printed scans of these. But if it's a personal set, if you're making this a personal project, it's like fan art. So you could do that, right? They're hard to come by. At one point, Mayfair Games, now it's Catan Studio, they sold the cards separately. You can't find them separately anymore. That would have been a lot better. I did find one set on eBay and I spent like 20 bucks and they're garbage. And this is actually it's only a set for 4 players, but most folks who actually play the game and the people who actually want to buy a set, they want 5 to 6 expansion. And so that's a lot. So you can buy this set. It's going to be spendy, right? It's going to be like 70 to 90 bucks just to buy 2 new sets where you have this many cards from the original 4-player, and then you need this many more cards for 5 to 6. But if it's a personal set, there's some options. So there's lots of, you can see actually other folks have done this on Etsy. I don't really know how they get around selling the cards with the other things. It's their own art, so maybe it's fan art under that way. And so here, like I just did a bunch of little designs, just kind of messed around, really easy to design it yourself. You can find other files online for other ones, but that kind of minimalist look is a cool effect. So I want to show a couple options if you want to make cards to complete the set and make everything custom made all together. But you are probably at least going to need a reference, a purchased set for the rules and directions, and probably the end user, most likely they already have this set, and they probably already have the cards. But consideration if you want to do cards. So after I tested out the files, I tested it out on my original F1, which has an IR laser. Here is the F1 Ultra. It's actually a fiber laser and diode, all that, but they have this cool conveyor for batch production. I mean, how cool is this? This worked so perfect. This was an amazing application. You can see this video just to see all that the laser conveyor can do. Another option is if you're using any of the machines that have a camera, you can use this batch fill. So this is on the P2, which I used for most of this project. And what it does is the camera can sense the object and it can replicate it, even if it's off kilter. So if you don't have to make a jig per se, the camera itself is going to recognize the shape and the orientation, and then it's going to run that same file, which is great when you're making 25 of the same resource card over and over again. And so here I did this for another material. So I also tried cardstock. I love the metal business card, but also this F1 Ultra is amazing. I got a lot of videos on this if you want to see. This one's just plain fun. This is obviously a great application. So here, trying some like white, cardstock, cards. That was a good option. You could print this. I thought about using my M1 Ultra with a print head on that, or doing some other like stickers, some sticker things, but I just went with a couple options here. So cardstock, this is that brown paper, craft paper. You can play around with a lighter engraving or a darker engraving. Here, I didn't end up using the conveyor. I'm just using the batch fill feature. So again, this is something that you could do on the P2 or the P2S for xtool because it's that batch fill potential, or the F1 Ultra without the conveyor. The conveyor is just really cool and really was efficient. Was able to do that full set of metal business cards that way. So there you have it, just some different ideas. Obviously, I love the business cards best. It does, you're gonna do both sides, so this does take time. The conveyor option is awesome, but again, any like the P2 or the P2S, if it has a camera or like the F1 Ultra, you can do smart fill and do a bunch, or you could set up a jig for just repeatability. The original F1 has something like this, and you can just keep slide a card in there, hit your button, all right, and replay it. But anyway, the cards here are the best. You could do other colors as well if you wanted to mess around with that, but obviously you need to consider the fact that you want the back of the cards not to be obvious. Like I couldn't do these are different colors because then my hand is holding and people would see clearly what resource cards I have. The cardstock, I think the cardstock worked out well. The cardstock definitely is the slowest. I had to go 500 speed, which is still fast, but just know if you're going to make a whole set out of cardstock, it looks really cool though. It does look cool. I'll link the different cards that I use, thicker, thinner, and these different ones. You can, this is a faster speed, but it just doesn't show up as much with that great detail. I can do mini cards. This is going to make things faster. So these are already intended for card use, so they kind of got a backer on them. Or we can do the fuller size. So some different options, considerations, but they are fun, and it's cool to customize your own set. You can look closer. You can go even further and, you know, have the names of the original game, like, you know, the chapel or, you know, whatever the different ones are. So options, considerations, if you want to make your own cards. And the money shot. Folks, these are so much fun. You can just, there are so many possibilities. So here, I'm not showing all 14 different sets because that was just going to be ridiculous to set them all up. But you get just kind of a feel for the different, you know, patterns. I love the hardwood. You can go, you know, with the black top and a white top for, like, you know, kind of a minimalist look. I do think gameplay wise, I do think color is important just for those who actually play Catan to have some colors. But just some ideas, a closer look at the possibilities. Fun. And there you have it. Super fun. What a project. Obviously, you don't need to be as ambitious to make all of these. Just really wanted to showcase all the possibilities. If this video provided value, please consider subscribing to see more videos like this. I've got a ton of laser content, all kinds of projects, other woodworking content as well, and there will be some other little videos coming up, a little bit more detail on the software for the pieces, a little bit more on some of those tips and tricks. Got some really cool things planned for all these lasers and more, so stay tuned for that. If you are interested in purchasing a laser to do this, it really is. You don't need a garage, you don't need a space. You could do this whole project on just one laser in your home, vent it outside, or use a purifier. And so this video right here talks about the different lasers and which ones I love and the pros and cons. To do this particular project, I think the P2S is your best friend. You could certainly do it on the S1, a lot more affordable, great entry point into the laser world. If you do purchase a laser, consider using our affiliate link here or links down below. We do get a portion of each sale. It helps support the channel and make these epic videos and stuff like this. So please consider, there's always some discount code deals down there as well as links to the materials that I used, where I sourced the stuff, all the different items as well. Thank you for watching. Let me know what you want to see next. What do you hope to see on the next ridiculous over-the-top project? This was some time coming, but you never know. Your idea might spark some interest. So leave a comment down below on what would be a cool over-the-top big laser project. Again, thanks for watching, and until next time, take care.